Don't know how much you have been enjoying the last 4 or 5 weeks, or even a little longer now, where it seems like every day there's so much news you can hardly even take it all in or deal with it or respond to it or talk with friends about it. But I don't think it's going to slow down anytime soon. So get ready, buckle up for this week because we've already got so much stuff. Okay, let's start with Sawyer Maris reporting this. Morgan Stanley has reinstated their top pick in U.S. autos. For Tesla is now the top pick again. After the 30% fall in the stock price, they're like, okay, this is a very good deal. He says lower car deliveries are emblematic of a company transitioning from a pure automotive play to a diversified AI and robotics play. Adams went on to say that Tesla's humanoid robot opportunity, they don't even factor that into their bull case of 800 or their base case of 430, but it's becoming serious enough to move Tesla stock. By the way, that $800 bull case with just Robotaxi in it is awfully close to my number. Protests continue to come in at various Tesla showrooms around the country. Meanwhile, yeah, so this is they're unhappy about Doge, or they're unhappy about Palestine, or they're unhappy about Elon being a Nazi. Who knows what they're unhappy about? In fact, most of them don't seem to know what they're unhappy about. Some of them have been interviewed, and they seem like maybe they're just paid shills. Anyway, the protests continue, but they're petering out. There have been something over 100 reported. I checked around a couple of different resources. It looks like a few over 100 total protests so far. There has seemed to be only 6 this weekend. Again, same resources. The press is giving them tons of coverage. But while the New York and the Hawthorne SpaceX protest had pretty decent turnouts, the overall effort to me appears weak. As noted by several on Twitter, these are being coordinated by Tesla Takedown. That's a specific organization that has set themselves up in order to, organize these and get people out. And again, there may be some paid demonstrators. It couldn't be a George Soros thing. I mean, you don't think, do you? Anyway, this is from Barron's. First, the good news, they say. Actually, I'm not even going to report the bad news because their bad news is stupid. Okay, so let's just, literally just wasn't right. So let's talk about the good news. Tesla CEO Elon Musk took to X to discuss Tesla earnings. Musk believes Tesla's profit can rise 1,000% in the coming 5 years, adding it will require outstanding execution. That's what Elon said. Musk's comments were made in response to a post on X that pointed out that Wall Street projections have Tesla earning roughly $9 a share in 2029. That's not very good. It's about 300% compared to where we are now. But if you take the total and you multiply it using the 1,000% of where we are now, you'd be talking about $25 a share. All right. According to Barron's, this is not guidance, it's just a goal. Investors will have to wait until Monday to see if the comment moves the Tesla stock. For now, we consider what it means for Tesla's share price. A 10 times increase in Tesla earnings translates into $714 stock price today, says Future Fund Active ETF co-founder and Tesla shareholder Gary Black. So he's being quoted, adding about the earnings growth, that is Elon's assumption, not ours. Black's math is relatively straightforward. You take the 10 times the current price, the current earnings, so get you to $24 to $25 a share in 2025. In 2030, the stock might trade for about 50 times earnings then, putting the 2029 price at about $1,200. You discount that back using 14%. And that gets you to 714 right now. So, according to Elon Musk, the value, using Gary Black's method with only a 50 PE in 2029 would get you to $714 right now. And once again, go ahead. If the stock goes to 714, I'll justify it. Here's one way you could justify it. If nothing else, it explains why Tesla investors are currently willing to pay about 100 times estimated 2025 earnings for shares. And for what will drive earnings up 1,000%? Musk believes self-driving technology will do it. Tesla plans to launch a self-driving robotaxi service in 2025. Well, on this story, the Washington Post might have changed its editorial page. Maybe you heard about that over the last couple of days. They're, wanting to make it concentrating on capitalism and talking about, go America in terms of, business in the future. But the horrific negative press in the editorials, in the news section hasn't changed. And it isn't really news. It's opinion in the news section. There's not even a chance, a little bit of an effort to be even-handed. Here was the opening paragraph in their article. Over the years, Musk and his businesses have received at least $38 billion in government contracts, loans, subsidies, tax credits, often at critical moments. A Washington Post analyst has found helping their growth that has made Elon the world's richest person. But not at one time in the entire article does it say most of these, more than half of those dollars, are from contracts that were won by bids awarded by the various governments that he was selling them to, mostly the US government, and that an easy audit or analysis of those bids by US, like people from NASA, have said that it saved the US government $70 billion. Nowhere does it say the reality that without SpaceX, there wouldn't be any US government effort of consequence in space at all, not to mention that they would be relying on Russia for whatever space efforts there might have been, as they were before Elon came along with SpaceX. I could go on with this rant. I think you already know all the stuff. I think you know that the little loan they got back in 2012 or 13 or 14 for 600 million or something, they paid it back early and had to pay points. They had to pay extra because they paid it back early. Anyway, it's just, you just can't. It's so hard to keep reading this stuff every day and know what the truth is, and yet these people just lie. I mean, this is not a straightforward lie. But what they say in court, when you don't tell all the truth, it's the same as a lie. This is Randy Kirk. If you could hit the like button, I know you probably do it every day. Thank you so much. It's so kind of you. Would you please do it again today? And then when you hit if you haven't subscribed yet, there is I got lists of people that wonder why you haven't subscribed yet. They're like throwing their hands up. They can't figure out what. Come on now. And then you would hit notify so that you can remember to see Brian Wang in a little bit. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. And of course, you could join Patreon. That'd be thumbs up for that. All right. Excuse me. Following its release on February 17th, 2025, the Grock 3 app quickly rose to prominence. Within a few days, it climbed, this is by Grock reporting on itself. Within a few days, it climbed to the #1 spot in the free apps category in the iOS App Store in the United States, surpassing competitors like OpenAI's ChatGPT. Posts on X and various web reports indicate that this surge occurred within 24 to 72 hours of its launch, highlighting its rapid adoption. The app's popularity is attributed to its advanced features, including the Grock 3 AI model, which boasts enhanced reasoning, real-time data access, and capabilities like image generation and problem solving in math, science, and coding. Additionally, xAI's decision to offer Grock 3 for free for a limited time likely contributed to the widespread downloads. Preliminary data suggests that mobile app downloads of Grock increased more than tenfold in the week of its release compared to the previous week, reflecting strong user interest. By the way, I've used Grock a lot by now. It is really a lot of fun. You do have to, like every one of these, you have to watch it because it lies all the time. It doesn't give you all the information. I asked it for information on one story today, and I had to go back and say, how come you didn't tell me about this part? That article will be coming up. All right. In fact, here's that article. Harvard CAPS, CAPS-Harris poll from February 19th to 20th says that this poll conducted online among 2,443 registered U.S. voters by the Harris poll and Harris X, it was released on February 24th, provides a detailed snapshot of attitudes about Doge and government efficiency in general. Previously, and it compares to other polls that are out right now. Anyway, support for the Doge mission. 60% of voters believe Doge is helping make major cuts in government expenditures. This is a direct endorsement of Doge's effectiveness, suggesting a majority see it as delivering on its promise. 69%, almost 70%, but 69% is a good number, support the goal of cutting $1 trillion in government expenditures, aligning with Doge's broader objectives, as touted by Musk. Well, okay, you got almost 70% of the people thinking cutting $1 trillion is the right idea and that Doge is doing a good job. How come people are slamming Musk? Oh, you mean their oxes are getting gored? Oh, you mean they might be frauds and they don't want to be found out? Oh, I see. Anyway, government efficiency sentiment. 70% of voters say government spending is filled with waste, fraud, and inefficiency. Democrats, 58% believe it. Republicans, 78%, and independents, 75% believe. I want to know who the other people are that don't believe it. This widespread frustration fuels Doge's appeal. 83% favor reduced government expenditures over raising taxes, and 77% want a full examination of every single dime. I added that of government spending. They strongly backed Doge's raison d'etre. 76% support a full-scale effort to find and eliminate any fraud and waste in government, per a White House summary of the poll, according to Doge's mandate. 58% oppose Doge's employees having access to sensitive personal data. Because why? Because stupid press tried to make this big deal about the privacy. Tens of thousands of government employees have access to your information. Tens of thousands of people that see your credit card information working for banks and credit card companies have your information. Never mind. Okay. Okay, let's go on to this one. From Brian Lilly, he says, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, this is fabulous. He's amazing. A little slow speaking, but very, very smart. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told Bloomberg TV that Mexico has proposed matching Washington's tariffs on China. Okay, so slow down. Let me figure it. So Mexico has incoming stuff from China, okay? And not right now. Maybe they have no tariffs or maybe they have small tariffs. And Mexico is saying, hey, look, we will up our tariffs on incoming China products to Mexico if you'd kind of back off on this tariff stuff that you're talking about coming in, stuff that we're making coming into the United States. And he says this way, if Canada would do, and he urged Canada to do the same thing. And he says, then we could create a fortress North America, kind of like a EA. European, no, that's anyway, a United States version of the European Union with just the three countries. Anyway, all right, I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but I think it's probably good that they're continuing to try to come up with ways. They're clearly trying hard to find a way to make Trump back off of his promise. And by the way, I don't think I took this one down. Trump today said that he was reducing, he is clearing the way in terms of permitting, et cetera, in order to increase the amount of lumber that we are producing in the United States. The goal is to get the cost of lumber down so that we can get more houses being built. All right. So you got steel, which he's trying to get the cost down, aluminum trying to get the cost down, oil trying to get the cost down, lumber trying to get the cost down. You add all that together, there's a bunch of the costs in a home, okay? Lots of the costs. We've got on Monday morning, here's the reports that are coming out this week. We got the S&P final U.S. manufacturing. They're thinking that's going to be flat at 51.6. By the way, anything over 50 suggests expansion. So it'd be lovely if that continued to be at 51 or even higher. I have mixed theories about whether that can happen or not, given the reports that we've already seen. Construction spending last month was up 0.5, and they're thinking it'll be up another 0.1. That's pretty flat. And yeah, that's probably true. Especially again, you got to take into consideration the weather. ISM manufacturing, which is another way that they look at manufacturing. The S&P is PMI. That's producers. I'm sorry, the purchasing agents, purchasing managers, they call it, index, and then the ISM is where they're taking real numbers, and that was at 50.9 last month, and they're thinking maybe it will drop a bit to 50.6. All right. Then we have auto sales coming in from the various auto companies over next week. We'll be hearing from a lot, including we'll get the China numbers on Tesla for the first month, the production numbers, which will include, what we're sending to Australia, et cetera. Okay. Then on Wednesday, wait a minute, what happened to Tuesday? Nothing on Tuesday? Zip zero, except for Fed presidents and stuff speaking. All right. Wednesday, March 5th, we have ADP employment. Last month, it was a big number. Yeah, 183, I think, was considered to be a good number. 143 is the number that they're suggesting this month, which might be a little soft, and people might be like, oh, okay, there's more evidence of problems with the employment. S&P final U.S. services PMI, again, purchasing managers index, that's at 49.7 last month. They're thinking that's going to be flat. So maybe a little bit of indication of some services that are being impacted already by government cutbacks, maybe. Anyway, we'll see. Factory orders that morning as well. Last month they were down 0.9, suggesting they'd be up 1.6. This month, maybe just kind of making up, and sometimes these things even themselves up month to month. I'm not sure, but again, factory orders being up. Why? Why would we see factory orders up? Okay. ISM services, that's coming in. So that's 52.8 last month. They're thinking that'll pop up a little bit. So not sure why they think the purchasing manager index would be worse, and the services actual information would be going up. Anyway, and then that afternoon, we'll report on it. I guess Wednesday afternoon with Jeff Lutz, maybe, or we'll talk about it the next morning, is the Fed Beige Book. That's always interesting to take a look at. Thursday, we've got the initial jobless claims last week. They were 242, which was high, and they're thinking those will still be high at 243. I always figure, though, that the guess that they make on this is a guess. I know I say that all the time, but I think that they're off on this one more than they're right by a lot. So they're just people like you and me. You go ahead, you make your guess. I'm going to say it's going to be 225. Write it down. I won't remember. Okay. So then we get the final U.S. productivity number. Remember, that's a number that's quarterly. We get a preliminary, then we get a middle, and then we get a final. And they're thinking it's not going to change. It'll still be at 1.2, which ain't great. It's not bad, but it's not great. People have been asking, when do you think the productivity numbers are going to start to show up, from all the LLMs and AI? And I think we're way overdue. I'm surprised it hasn't hit already, but we'll see. Wholesale inventories, which you know how much I care about those. U.S. trade deficit, that's going to be down 100 billion. The deficit's going to be down 100 billion? That makes no sense at all. It was down 98 billion. The trade deficit being down, does that mean I don't know. Yeah, no, I'm going to say that what that means is that the deficit is going to be worse. It's going to be more because right now we're seeing we saw that if you follow this channel, we just talked about it the other day, that people are pre-buying. They're buying ahead of the tariffs. And so the trade deficit's got to be worse, more higher, the deficit being higher. So I'm not sure why that says. Anyway, I've never noticed that before. And I do this about every month. Friday, U.S. jobs report. So last month we had 143,000 new jobs. This month it's 160,000 is what they're projecting. So an increase in jobs. Okay. I would be surprised. But as always, we have to look at the changes. We have to look at what they did compared to last month. So that'll be interesting. At the same time, they're saying that the jobs, increase in the number of jobs, they're saying that the unemployment rate is going to go up, which are two different surveys. So from 4.0 to 4.1, that would be fine. It's not going to make the Fed jump around if that happens. But we might see this again. You hear me out. We've got people being laid off in government and people being laid off in tech. We'll see. U.S. hourly wages last month jumped up 0.5%, and they have been jumping up like those kind of numbers. They're thinking that might cool off to 0.3%. And again, you would think that if you're not getting a lot more people in, anyway, I would be surprised again if it's this low. We'll see what happens. And then hourly wages year over year, they think it's going to stay at 4.1, which is kind of an average over the last 12 months. Then you have a bunch of Fed speakers, including Chairman Powell on Friday, and then which is going to just create that much more confusion when you've already got the employment numbers, and then at 3 o'clock that afternoon, which maybe Larry and I will be able to talk about it, consumer credit numbers come out, and they think those are going to go down a lot. So last month they popped up 40.8 billion. They think they're only going to only go up 12 billion. And we saw that information the other day suggesting that people got a lot more income, but they're not spending it. So credit would definitely even contract. You might even see a negative here. Okay, multiple sources, just before I came on the air, multiple sources are saying that Zelensky is on the record telling European leaders that he is ready to sign the deal. But then we have this, Nick Sorter saying that Lindsey Graham slams Zelensky again, which he did right after the meeting the other day. He slams him again after the Ukrainian president refused to resign. He wants him now. I don't have a lot of respect for Lindsey Graham. I'm sorry. Lindsey Graham's all over the place, and half the time I think he's really wrong. He's a hawk, and I'm not a hawk. Anyway, he says until there's an election, no one has a voice in the Ukraine. And then this poster says, if Zelensky has lost Lindsey Graham, there's absolutely no way for him to recover. Zelensky is done. Well, I don't know about that. Zelensky certainly has been going around and picking up chits all over the world and asking everybody for help. And now he said the Europeans, basically, from what I'm understanding, is the European leaders all told him, you go back there and you make whatever you have to do, you get Trump back in the room and you sign, and then you let Trump go over and make that deal with Russia, because that's the only way this is going to work. And this is what I've been saying for weeks. And I've given you on X, if you've seen it on X, and I think I also reported here, kind of my 5-step analysis of that. All right. So, let's look at the numbers. Let's see, it's 500 exactly on the nose. So with a little luck, we'll be able to get the first report out of Robinhood here. Maybe not immediately. I don't see it yet. You'd think you'd be able to see it. So sorry to use up precious minutes like this. We're now at 298 and going up 298, 299. Okay, we'll come back to this before we leave. Yep, and see how that's doing. Some people were saying with Bitcoin has jumped up a huge amount. We'll talk about that in a second. But with Bitcoin and Tesla have been following each other around. So if Bitcoin's up that much, Tesla should go up too. Now, Bitcoin's going up for a big reason. We'll talk about that. So it may not impact Tesla as much as people think, but it'll be interesting to see what does happen on that. All right, so let's go ahead as always and start off with the bonds. Whoops, I went the wrong way. Let's go to the bonds. All right, so what we have now is the 10-year is up 1.5 basis points in the pre-market. And that is about where it's been for the last hours. I've been checking on it. So we're at 4.244. Do not want to go over 4.25 again. It's got to go the other way. Got to go the other way. All right. The 2-year is at up 2.7 basis points. And the all of a sudden, for some reason, my app is working again. The 2-month is unchanged right now at 4.322. Let's go on to oil, which has been going up a little right now. Again, probably because of the uncertainty. Or by the way, there's also uncertainty in Israel. Israel's been saying that they're not going to let the relief services continue to go into the Gaza because Hamas is not they're not working hard enough to get a deal for phase 2. And so there's a little, and he's even said, Netanyahu has even suggested that they might have to, start doing some military action again. So we'll see how all that works out. But so oil is up a little bit here, up a half a buck. It's back over $70 on Texas Intermediate, 73.39 on Brent. Natural gas continues to just fall off a cliff, back down to $3.76, down 1.93 in the pre-market. Gold bouncing back up again now at 30 bucks up, 2,878. Silver also almost a full percent up at 31.79, and copper up 0.65 at 4.57. The euro is falling to a 2-week low after the meeting. All right, that's what the headline says. All right, here's what we got with Bitcoin. So, as you probably undoubtedly know, the President of the United States signed another executive order today saying that they were going to do Bitcoin, Ether, Solana, at least one more of these different cryptocurrencies that will be in the national reserve. And so as a result of that's a final decision. We've got up 7,784, 9% on the day. Ether up 11%, Solana up 24%. How come I didn't invest in that? So Bitcoin is sitting at 93. So that puts it right back in the middle of its old range, but not quite, actually, kind of at the top of that bottom range. Do you remember how I used to break that down? All right, so there's a range like on Bitcoin of around 88 to 93, that we're now in that range again. And then there's a 93 to like 100, and then 100 to 110. So I got those 3 ranges. So now we're at the top of that kind of lower range, if you will. Pre-market, here we go with the equities. We got the Dow, all 3 down right now. So we got the Dow down 48 or 0.11, got the S&P down 5 or 0.08, and you got the NASDAQ down 22 or 0.11. Now, all of those were up an hour ago. Now all of them are down, but barely. And it looks, as I'm just sitting here watching for a minute, it's looking like they might be trying to go back toward the green. Okay, let's see here. Let's go ahead now and see what happened to Tesla in that amount of time. We need to get it to give us the real number here. No, so it's up $3.72. That's not bad. 1.2%, 1.2%, but it's now only 296, where just a minute ago it was 299. So it is not necessarily continuing to do the Bitcoin number, at least yet. All right, so there you go for that. So talking about tonight. So we got Brian Wang on tonight. We'll be talking about Starship and Starlink and all the things associated with what Starship is going to be doing. The launch is supposed to be tomorrow night. The launch of the number 8. We'll talk about what's going to happen on number 8. We'll talk about what is supposed to be accomplished. Then we'll talk about if they get what they want done, what will happen on number 9. We'll talk about the rest of the year. We'll talk about all really, really like a very, very nice summary of where things are with regard to the entire SpaceX planning and programming. All of this impacts Tesla because eventually all of our cars, just believe it, every car is going to be coming equipped with a Starlink dish. So, and then this morning, Brian and I also got together and we talked a lot about AI. We talked about xAI, so another Elon Musk company. We talked about X and xAI. We talked about the unimpeachable. There is no way that the other the other AI companies are ever going to be able to catch xAI with what Elon's doing, because he's just going to put in more compute than they can even contemplate putting in. And if you've played around with Grock 3, I don't have the voice yet, unfortunately. I really want to play with it. But just the writing and the responses and everything else, absolutely incredible. And most people, really solid folks. I listened to the All In podcast this weekend. I listened to the BG2 podcast this weekend. Both of them are like, no, this is Elon's game to lose. He's got the lead, and he's probably going to keep it. So I highly recommend you go back. I'll put the card up to listen to Brian Wang and I talk about that. We talked about something else on that program too. Guess you'll have to watch to find out. All right, that's all I got for you right now. It is always great talking to you.